And welcome to the next edition of Chocobo Chasers. I am G. I am joined by the Chocobros, Eric and Dash. We are also joined today by a very special guest, actor Scott Joseph, whom you may recognize as the Emperor in Baldur's Gate 3, a game to which all three of us and so many others are so incredibly fond of. In addition to Baldur's Gate 3, in which Scott actually had multiple credits in addition to the Emperor, you can also find him in Total War, Warhammer 3, and Expeditions Rome, among his many other credits. Scott, it is so amazing to have you on the show today.
Thank you very much. It's amazing being here, minus the tentacles. So I'll forgive audience members if they don't recognize me. But yeah, no, it's great to be here. I hope it's not too early for you guys as well. I appreciate that.
No, not at all.
We're used to it at this point. We've had quite a few UK guests, and it's all like we got to get this early enough for y'all that where you're not getting too far into your evening. So we do appreciate you taking time out of your afternoon for this.
Absolutely.
No, I appreciate that. No, in fact, we're just coming to the end of summer, and I've done a couple of interviews, and one was when it was about 34 degrees in the booth. So that was comfortable.
Haven't
can you see the sweat dripping down me?
Is that like your own little private booth there too?
Yeah. Back in just before lockdown hit over here, I went kind of, I don't know if you've ever seen those poker games where they go all in. I did that with my kind of career. I invested loads in my website. I invested a load in a custom built studio. So I had a double garage, and it was converted into a soundproof studio that in turn had a soundproof booth put into it, all custom made. So yeah, in fact, the guys were amazing that did it. They even put my initials in the air vents, which were a nice. I didn't ask for that. They did it off their own back, and I was like, "That's cool."
That is so cool.
Yeah.
that is amazing. Well, Dash, why don't you go ahead and get us kicked off with our questions here?
All right. With the Emperor being the Mind Flayer, I am sure doing the motion capture, there were some unique movements that you had to do with that.
Yeah. The Mind Flayer's frustrating in a certain regard because they're very stoic. So it was kind of hard initially for me to really feel the character out, because a lot of times when you get into the volume, the first thing you want to do is embody the character, and a lot of that is finding the physical shape of them and then kind of letting it flow from there. But the Emperor was so stoic and so contained that I really had to fight to do a lot of the natural things that you do when you're performing. So like head gestures, really fluid or natural sharp movements, they were all out. It was, I think one directional note I gave was, imagine that his movements are flowing through water. So if he reaches out a hand, it's all like it's going through water. And so obviously in my first session, I'm like a sponge. I'm taking all the notes that they can possibly give. And so, yeah, the initial one was a lot of the time that people interact with the Emperor, he'll be floating. So if you can find a way to demonstrate that, okay. And so I think the natural that he's 7 foot. They're 7 foot tall. So it was very much in the shot when they breathe. It's very much a kind of you can't really see there, but I'm exaggerating a little bit, but it kind of, the whole chest went up and it rippled through the arms and then went back down. So it was trying to find that each time we went into the volume, but obviously not doing it too much that it looks like they're trying to fly, and not doing it so little that you can't see it, and also keeping that consistency going through. So that was the biggest thing. Once I'd got that down, that actually served as a bit of a metronome for the performance to come through. And the other kind of things, when they're given a movement to do, I was all over that. I was like, oh, thank God, I've got something that I can do here. So if he's reaching out a hand or if they're reaching out a hand to cast a spell, or if sometimes they would think? Now, if you're thinking as a normal character, you probably go like that, and well, yeah, maybe. But with the Emperor, it was just, how do I think? So maybe it was angling the body off to the side. And I think the nuances of that were brought out even more by subsequent hand animation that was probably built into, by the animators at Larian, that really kind of put the icing on the cake with the performance.
Did you have any particular moments you had fun doing that with?
I mean, obviously there's that moment that you, because obviously the Emperor is romanceable. Is that what you were hinting towards?
I wasn't sure because so I was thinking if you were floating, did they suspend you at all or anything like that?
Oh my God, I wish that would have been so cool to be in a suspension suit. Oh my word. No, unfortunately not. So I think what would happen there is you do the hand gesture, it rises up, and then I guess the feet are animated. But I mean, when it says full performance capture, it means the hands as well. So we had power gloves put on, which sounds so good.
Yeah, and he's very expressive with his hands too. So it's
because when you reach out and things, you reach out like that. It's so I had fun with that. When and wherever I could include gestures and things, or put items away and things like that, I kind of relished that because I didn't get to do a lot of it.
Well, that is amazing. And I think we actually have a question that pertains to the romance option a little bit later, but
I'll look forward to that one.
Eric, do you want to follow that up?
Yeah. So mind flayers, historically, they have no emotion. There's no mercy in them. They don't have their memories, but the Emperor has all those things. The mercy somewhat. We won't go into too much of that, but what was the process like for you and the directors to try to bring in like an emotionless character to life?
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that you mentioned the directors as well, because it's I think in games a lot more than any other genre or any other medium, it really is hugely a collaborative effort, principally because of the way it works. A vast amount of the time in terms of what you're given as an actor, the amount of information you're given, and the amount that's actually physically available at that particular time, because it's a very organic process. They get stuff to the studio and sometimes they tweak it and you'll get stuff back. And so it really is, and the nature of the way that multiple choice games work is, you guys probably know this, but it's like a tree. The script is like a tree, and it branches out, and then you make a decision and it branches out again, and another decision. And in this game in particular, the branches are just mind-bogglingly big and complex. So you could say the same line 2 or 3 times and think, well, hang on, I've already said this. And the voice director would say, well, this is if your companions have made this decision. So you're coming from this emotional grounding. Right. And then you let that inform how you're going to deliver the lines. So it's a hugely complex thing to do. So when it came to the Emperor, we trod a very fine line of with the Emperor, without giving too much away, it's very much shades of grey. And I think with a lot of characters, actually, in a quest, everyone has their own agendas, their own things that they want to achieve, and that feeds into the overall quest. And obviously, principally, the gamer is the central thread that goes through that. But with the Emperor, I think a lot more than probably any other character, they're very shades of grey, and not much difference in the shades. Like they keep their cards very close to their chest, potentially for good reason. I mean, obviously, as you said, being a mind flayer brings with it certain baggage. So I think the real secret was finding that voice that was quite contained, quite low in my register, and quite almost in your head. Obviously, a lot of the time when the Emperor speaks, it's telepathically anyway. So there had to be that feeling of almost intimacy, I guess. And I think because there is that nature of intimacy, of telepathy, it isolates a lot of the other companions because they're not party to what I'm thinking unless I let them. And so I think there is that kind of the Emperor treads a very fine line there. So it was finding that line and really not making it sound too similar each line. And I was really thankful for some excellent voice directors really keeping me honest on that, saying, actually, could we just try it like this? And actually, I know that you're going for this intent, but it might be interesting if we soften it and actually show a bit of vulnerability here. And I think those minor kind of directional choices really serve to, and it's been a real pleasure and a privilege to be able to see some of you guys, the gamers, stream online and see that play out, because you can tell it's worked when you're presented with a decision to make from the Emperor. And I've seen some of the games go, oh God, I don't know. Oh, what do I do? That it's kind of like, this goes against everything, but then again, the power, and it's just like, yes, that's exactly, because it's a big decision. It could hold massive implications. And so it was when I saw reactions like that, it kind of made me sigh with relief, because that's kind of what we were after.
You guys, it was a monumentous collaborative effort, because Thomas Mitchells was explaining to us, you guys had so many different voice directors in the project, especially, we've talked to even voice directors themselves as well. And it seems like this was just, it's probably the most voice actors we've seen on one particular project. And obviously it's been a pretty long developed project as well. It's been developed over the last like 6 to 7 years.
7 years, yeah.
Yeah, and different parts of the cast ended up joining onto the project at different times. When did you officially join on? And when you did you know exactly the role you had signed up for?
So I joined, I think it was late on in 2021. Okay. And yeah, I auditioned, an audition pack came through my agent, and they said they're really interested in seeing you. And you auditioned very much like you would for a film, a self-tape. So for mocap auditions, I tend to do on a very tight, like the cycling stuff, but it's all black, because just to give them a very clear idea of my physicality. It's not particularly endearing, but hey, I'm not casting it. So I do that, and I film it in here. And when you go up for it, any part, it's very guarded what they give you, and very often the name of the character that you're going up for might not be the name of the character in the game. They give it a kind of a working title character name. So so I went up. The first part I went up for was actually Marcus. I don't know if you guys have encountered him. So obviously I can't say too much, because again, when a lot of games encountered him, it's quite a pivotal moment. That annoyed a lot of people, I think, because it was quite tricky. So yeah, I went up for him and did it for a few months. And I thought that was it. I thought it was great fun. I did a few sessions, had a great time. And he's very much kind of a solid character. You can, perform a lot. I got to do like a kind of superhero landing, which is always good. And then my agent got back in touch a few months after I'd finished that with another kind of breakdown, and I said, well, I've already been in it, is that cool? And they said, yeah, they want to see you. So I did another one, and I had no idea that it was for the Emperor. I think at that point it's just called the Companion. So yeah, and I got
That's
very
one way
excited.
to put it. Yeah.
I got so I again, but that audition I really loved doing. I think I loved doing both auditions for this because they gave some meaty stuff for you to get your teeth into. Very often it can be just the odd line here or there, and you in auditions for games, and I guess in general, you've just got to be bold with your decision making. Just rather than try to second guess what they want, just think, well, what do I think this character is, and how do I want to play it, and be true to that. And so I did, and I really felt for the Emperor that I kind of understood where what I'd been given, where they were coming from, and so I played it like that, and obviously it landed right. So there are a few other characters which kind of get thrown in. I think mainly towards the end of when I was playing Marcus, they were like, oh, we've got a couple of smaller characters. Do you mind doing those? And that's always fun to do because it's a completely different physical embodiment. So you go from Marcus being all like that to maybe playing a cook who, is just downtrodden and, slump the shoulders, arch the back, is hassled. And so you really get to play a completely different character, and that's always fun.
Any animals in there?
No, I don't think so. No. There were a couple of guards. I think there was a kind of fisherman character, a cook, a lord of nobility in Baldur's Gate, who had a few lines. So yeah, it's hard because you do them and then they just go off. And you don't know whether they're going to make it back in, into the actual game, or there'll be part that just didn't make the cut or whatever. So you just have to wait and see. Yeah,
Definitely. Yeah, Eric, I think you're coming in with the question of the interview here.
We told you it was coming, but so compared to your co-stars, especially for the Emperor's romance scene, it's a lot different.
Yeah.
What did they actually have you doing that stuff in the mocap suit, or was it just like they just tie some pool noodles to your face and you're just waving?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was very lucky because typically when you go into the volume, I'm sure you guys are quite well read up on mocap, and you get an avatar and you have a screen in front of you and you do all these movements to calibrate the space, and then your avatar is there. And it's a neutral avatar. It's kind of like a Power Ranger or something like that, or it could just be just a figure. And that's really helpful to inform you of your performance, and especially in games because you have to go back to your base pose. I'm sure you heard that as well. Every action that you do means you have to go back to the base pose because they have to stitch it all together in different directions, and it's got to be able to be stitched together. So that can be it was very frustrating for the Emperor because he moved so slowly. So if I'd finished my line when I was mid gesture, I'd have to, kind of slowly, but not, but quickly, but slowly get back to my base pose without taking too long, because otherwise it would have been clunky. So yeah, with the romancing, I was warned about it. I think I'm probably in my second session, so not in the first. Thank goodness, because I think I'd have probably been just thinking about that. And I was, by the way, your character's romanceable. And I was like, oh. Unfortunately, I'd done Expeditions Rome, which had a romance, my character was romanceable, not quite in the same way, but was romanceable in that. And that was just voice acting. But it kind of helped inform me. I was thinking, okay, that's cool. And the great thing about games is, you can't even, it's not me. I mean, it's very much not me. I was very lucky in that my avatar for the Emperor, actually, they had an avatar, a Mind Flayer avatar. So you could see the tentacles. And that was so that a lot of the time is to keep the chin up so that tentacles stay kind of projected out and don't give the animators a headache in going too close to their armor and things like that. So yeah, we were told about that. The day came, and the guys at Pit Stop who do the motion capture were very, very kind, very attentive, very kind of, are you okay with this? You know, you're not uncomfortable. And I just let's go for it. Let's see where it goes. I don't know what's going to happen. Let's see how it happens. And so we did the dialogue up to that, and it was, you know, it's really great because I think there's a side that I got to show that perhaps I surprised some people. Maybe, you know, some people won't go anywhere near that, and that's entirely their quest. There's no right or wrong with this. I think that's the beauty of the game. Your decisions are your decisions, and you just own them all the way through. And your quest happens the way it happens. It's not the right or the wrong way. So, but it did enable me to show a different side, I think, to the Emperor. And I kind of relished that bit. The actual animation with the spoiler free, that was all, I think, done by the animators. Floating in the air and doing it. Yeah, we couldn't really do that. So which I'm kind of relieved that
you killed the image in our head when you said that there was no suspension work.
But the sounds, yeah, that was me. And actually, weirdly, I think we got it in one take. I think, you know, I don't know, because I looked through the window to the operation booth, and I was just like, and they looked at me and, well, what does a mind flayer do in those? What kind of sound would a mind flayer make? So what you hear is pretty much like, you know, I thought, well, okay, get in the headspace and just, rather than let it filter through embarrassment or anything like that, just surrender to it and go and see what it goes. And everyone was like, actually, you know what? That's all right. That seemed pretty good to me. And, you know, hats off to the guys that do the processing and the sound as well, because I think that helped enhance a lot of my vocals in terms of getting it in that headspace, internal headspace. So there's a bit of echo, a bit of a bit more intimacy than perhaps would be there.
That is awesome. Dash, do you wanna go next?
So you posted on Twitter that you got your copy of Baldur's Gate 3, so I had to ask if you built your own tab or did you use a origin character?
No, right. So hands up here. I've tried to play this game about 4 occasions. I think one time I said, I'm you know, baby's asleep literally beside me, because I've got 4 kids and one's 3 months old. So the 3-month-old was beside me, having just been fed and everything like that, was asleep. I was like, yeah, I can do this. I'll load up the game. So I did that. But oh my word, it took me a while to build my character. I decided to build my own character because I wanted to encounter as many of the other companions as I could. So I chose to be a high elf druid, which for a newbie like me is probably a step too far, but we'll see. I love the fact that he had a crap load of magical potential, but also knew his weapons too. And I kind of like that balance. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I need to get to grips with the PlayStation 5 control in terms of how you play and go to spells and stuff like that. But I'm really looking forward to getting into it properly. You know what it's like when you're gaming. I can't game for like half-hour, 1-hour periods. I have
especially this game specifically. Yeah. Like, this is not a turn your brain off and just take a minute to, like, you gotta dedicate some true time to it.
I've got to clear the evening, clear the night, and look up and realize that it's getting morning outside, and I've thrown 5 or 6 hours at this game. Because that's how when I was a kid, that's how I played with my dad. My dad and I, you know, my mum would come up and knock on my dad's studio door and open it and give my dad an evil look, because it was like 2 o'clock in the morning. It was a school night and I was playing games with my dad. So that's my memory of gaming. So, you know, playing through the night is not necessarily new to me, but it's very new to my wife. So I have to be very careful.
So you haven't gotten that far in the game to really decide on like your party comp yet?
No, and I'm not going in with any preconceived notions, or like I'd really want to that companion or this companion. I'm going to really I'm going to play it like with my sensibilities, my moral judgment, my moral compass, not like a dark urge or anything like that yet. I'm going to go, what would I do? And then see how my encounters with the companions fare, and kind of make a decision there and then, whilst also having saved moments earlier.
I think everyone is saving Dark Urge for playthrough 2 of Eric. I know you speak from experience.
I started it, man, and it's chaos, pure chaos. It's hilarious.
Is it really?
Oh,
wow! It's got to be done, though. It has got to be done.
You've got to at least know. And so one thing that we've noticed, especially when it comes to the cast of Baldur's Gate 3, is that there is such a tight-knit group. In a way, I feel like that, especially we don't see super often, whether it be film, television, especially in gaming. But so I wanted to ask, what do you feel like separates this group maybe from some of the ones that you've worked with in the past, whether it be gaming or whether it be film or television? But just wanted to kind of get your take on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a mixture of things. I think it's a mixture of that there being some core cast members that have been on this ride for a long time, so they know their stuff, and they're really cool with it. I think maybe not the first day, but the second session I was in, Neil was doing another session, and he came straight over to me just to introduce himself. And that was just really nice, because I get really nervous when I'm at the studios. I just want to focus on the character, on delivering the performance. And so I get a bit kind of internal and sitting there making sure my voice is in the right state. And I won't necessarily have the relaxed attitude to kind of go and speak to people, or indeed the courage. Because I don't want to bother. I'm terribly British. I don't want to bother anyone. Oh no. Why would I want to do that? No, they might get upset. Yeah, it's terribly stupid, but there we go. And so Neil came over and introduced himself, and we just had a really nice chat. It wasn't in depth. It was just a really nice icebreaker chat. And he was really friendly. And so the next couple of times that I saw him, I could go over and say hi. Sam, I know, so Karlak, we had the same agent, so we've worked together on a couple of other projects and stuff. And so it's just great to see her each time, because she's got this wonderful smile that lights up the room. And I'm 6'5" and she's not. So, when we hug, it's kind of like, so yeah, it was just really great. And I think it's just a lot of it's luck as well. It's just that you get, and it does happen, you get just a cast that gel, but not just in this production. I think because this production is so collaborative, you're so reliant on the movement directors, on the voice directors, and some of the voice directors are playing parts as well, and the sound engineers and things like that. It's such a collaborative effort that you have to work together. You have to get on, and you have to realize that this is, as much as this is a job, this is a labor of love. I personally love games, and I want the experience to be the best it possibly can be. So I get, that's why once it goes out, I get really nervous and kind of, I think I was probably the last person to say, hi X, Twitter, whatever. I played the Emperor, and it was just because I didn't know what to say, how to say it. And I think Sam messaged me going, you must be the last person to say that you've been on this production, Scott. What are you doing? And they're just really supportive, and that really helps. I think they're just nice people. It's just a group of nice people that want to work and support each other. So long may that continue.
That's definitely, from all of our experiences with the cast, we've seen it firsthand, and everybody put in a phenomenal performance as well. And I think everybody wanted the project to be so great too. So
yeah, and it's such a shame that it is a very solo project. You go in you're not with anyone else. You're not acting with your with your other companions or anything like that. It's just you in the volume. And sometimes you might hear the characters' lines come back to you because they've already recorded their lines. Other times it will just be the voice director who, they will give it emotion and things like that. And you just have to play out that, but you don't really get to interact with any of the other cast. That's why it's been beautiful to see. I've just watched the High Rollers D&D session.
Yeah.
I think the other one might be tonight, actually. And that was just great, just to see the main cast in that. Fantastic experience.
This is absolutely awesome. Dash, you want to come in with our second to last question?
Yes. So you promote on your Twitter a lot of your voiceover work
Yes.
for descriptive audio. I believe you even mentioned that you won awards for it. So could you tell us more about it and what all goes into this work?
Yeah, well, the audio description I've done since about 1999 to the year 2000. So I was an actor. I was fed up with being a waiter and things like that while resting, and so I worked at the BBC in a test lab, which sounds quite cool. But they were testing out audio description, and they just happened to be working on this gothic fantasy series called Gormenghast, and the guys that were doing the script said, we really need a guy to voice this. And I just said, I turned around in my chair and said, I'll do it. And I think that was one of the first bits of audio description that went out test wise on the BBC, which was cool. And I kind of kept my hand in it with it, because basically as a voice actor, you want to be voicing, even if it's not acting, you want to still be using your voice. And this was the perfect job for me. So I've been doing it pretty much ever since. And audio description is scripting for TV and film, what happens in scenes when no one's talking. So if you're visually impaired, you're like, I don't know what's going on here. My voice would come over and say, describe what's happening, the most pertinent things to pull the plot through, and then fleshing out from there if there's time. And it's been fantastic. I didn't win the award for the audio description. That was a colleague of mine. It was at the company that I work at. But I did win a voice award recently for a commercial that I did. So yay. That was lovely. And yeah, it's just been a fantastic job, and really rewarding, actually, because I got to do the Rio Paralympic Games opening and closing ceremonies live. So they actually had a separate channel for enhanced audio commentary. So I got to do enhanced audio commentary live for the Rio Paralympics. So I think we were going through the night for that one. And that was great fun. So it's opened a great deal of doors into areas that I really wouldn't have considered doing before.
That is awesome. And definitely something that we would love for more people to know about, because that is a service that is just so important.
I don't think I would say, like the average person probably doesn't even know these exist, because
no, and a lot of people accidentally put it on their TV by mistake because they pushed the wrong button on the remote.
Right.
Why is someone telling me what I can see on the screen? And some people are very polite, say, I think you've got the audio description on. So but yeah, I mean, it's big in America as well. I think there's quite a lot of Netflix do it, and a lot of the services are offering it. I think I even had to do some audio description in American, which was great fun. I can't remember, it was for a film. I can't remember what it was. So yeah, it's great fun to do, and like I said, really rewarding.
That's awesome. Eric, you want to come in with our final question?
So you voiced for another one of my favorite games, Total War Warhammer.
Yes.
So with that, that could be a unit with one or two lines. That could be a character. Some of these characters don't have a lot of lines. So what's that like? And do you know who you voiced? And can you tell us more about it?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, that was great fun to do, actually, and very different to the usual stuff that I do. So initially I did a Herald of Khorne. Pretty evil, nasty creatures. Khorne's like, think Corn's a lovely chap, you know, blood god, generally just pretty angry.
Blood for the blood god.
Yeah, blood, yeah. And it's very guttural. But probably, well, maybe more angry guttural than the main character that I played, which was Scrag the Slaughterer. So that was, he's a great character. He's a prophet of the great Moor, and the Moor being an ogre deity. Excuse me if you guys probably know this, anyway, but I mean, it's just horrendous life that he's had. He accidentally cooked his boss's favorite nobbler, I think, and because he was annoying him, and got his hands eaten, and got his cooking pot anchored to his flesh in his back. So he's generally pretty cross because he then wedged his cooking utensils into the stumps of his hands, and so he's this really disturbed character. But for voicing him, it was very, very guttural, and he's slightly unhinged. So he very often, because he feels he can hear the great Moor, he's having these conversations outwardly, but then hearing the Moor and so arguing with him. So it's a very fun character to do, but in, I mean, I could do it now, but it's very loud.
A sleeping child.
Well, no, not in my soundproof booth. They wouldn't hear it.
Yeah.
But you know, I mean, there's a if you can get it online, there's an excellent scene where he's I think it's in an animated scene where like a cinematic, where he's on this mountain with his army, and he's been trapped, but he doesn't see it as a trap for him. He sees it as a trap for them, and that it was just a really nice to get your teeth into. And yeah, I think we do 1 hour sessions for that because, you know, it's what do you want to hear
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh
Yeah.
It's been a while since we got live.
Yeah, so the first, I'll stand back from the mic in case it peaks, but the first and he's very much like that.
I think it was so loud it cut out.
Yeah, so,
did it?
so loud it cut out.
No!
So
I'll tell
it
you
was
what.
just your face.
But
You
even-
just have
even
my
just
face.
The face was perfect.
We're gonna make that the thumbnail.
Yeah, that,
Yeah, great. But basically, then a lot of for those kind of characters, I was chatting with the director, and he was saying we tended to get thrash metal singers because they can just do it without, and it's very similar to babies, because babies can cry at the top of their lungs and never ruin their voice because they don't know how to scream badly. So the actual effort that you put in has to be relaxed so that you don't tense your vocal cords. And it kind of it's counterintuitive, but that's what I tried to remember. I just tried to think, okay, well, how guttural can I make this without thrashing my voice? Because, you know, it's quite important that I actually don't end up with nodules or stuff like that.
that is amazing. Dash, I know you had one quick question just before we go ahead and end.
Yeah, you mentioned that you grew up playing games with your father, so I was gonna ask, what games were you playing, and what were your favorites?
All right. Well, okay. There's one game that I played on the Commodore 64.
Ooh.
Yeah, probably before you guys' time. You guys look far too fresh-faced and young for that time. Called Whizball, which is a very simple game where you had to bring color back to a land. But even before that, there was a console game called from Mattel in Television, and it was a console. You plug the cartridges in, and there are a couple of games on that I used to play with my dad. There was a space, I think it was called Space. Was it called Space Invaders? And basically, it had like a Uhura type voice coming in. Impulse drive down, you know, if you get stuff like, and because my dad, we got so excited. My dad came home one day and said, "I've got the voice module for the Intellivision," and it was like an additional bit that you plug in. I'm like, oh my God, we've got to play this. So my dad did all was the tactician, and I did the fighter pilot shooting, you know, when they invade. And it was like split into two. So you had the shooting part and then the map with all the invaders kind of trying to blast you off the map. And seriously, I didn't realize just how much I would miss playing those games with my dad. You don't miss it until it's gone, but they were just fantastic. Just spending hours playing games together was fantastic.
That is amazing.
And way before your times, you're all like
a little bit.
Mattel and television. What the hell's that?
We know Space Invaders, but we don't know the rest of it. We'll lie to you.
Just take a look at it if you can have a look. It's really old. It's really old. But apart from that, I mean, I used to play Elite, the original Elite on the Commodore 64, and Last Ninja 3. My God, this is so old.
You can actually download WizBall on PCs today. They've made it a free download available for people since it's not.
I'm not sure how it's aged.
Yeah, it retro is the operative word here for sure.
Yeah, that's you guys are going, you played this? Yeah. We didn't have much to do. It was 64K. What can you do with 64K?
You gotta work with what you got.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I remember having to tip the tape player on its side in order to load a game. Like literally, you had to. Crazy times. But yeah, I'm showing my age now. I'm really not that old.
Well, Scott, we want to thank you so much. This has been so fun, and we have had an absolute blast. I know our listeners are going to have an absolute blast listening to you as well. We also wanted to give you a chance real quick, just before we go ahead and end. Is there any projects or anything that you kind of wanted to highlight, anything you're passionate about that you want the listeners to know about?
It's tricky. I mean, inevitably you come off the back of something huge like this, and you're like, okay, I'm here. I've made it. Let the work roll in, and suddenly it's like crickets chirping, and you realize, oh no, I do still need to keep pedaling. And my agent's fantastic. They keep the auditions coming in. There was a very small part in another big game that I can't talk about because I'm NDA'd up to the max.
Yeah.
But if that goes ahead, you know, it'd be great just to be a part of that game.
Right.
And there's a couple of TV commercials which are due to come out, but again, that's over here. If I can pop them online, then I will. Usually they go online as well. So yeah, and then it's back to the wonderful resting. which is what actors call it when you're basically out of work.
The in-between period.
In-between period, yeah. So, but I hope you never know. I mean, auditions come in. We're just coming out of the post-summer lull where everyone's gone on summer holidays and stuff. So stuff starts to pick up before the Christmas chaos.
Well, again, Scott, this has been an absolute pleasure. I know that.
Oh, for me too.
Oh yeah.
We absolutely enjoyed this. I know everyone else who listens is going to enjoy this. So with that, I think we'll go ahead and we'll close this one out. We want to thank everybody for listening, and we will catch you all next time.
Have a good
Thanks
one.
a lot, guys.
Thank you.